with the boys. The boys pulled out this year and just showed, look, they have one of the strongest teams in the region, 100 points already. Gorecki, Smexen, Chun-Li, and Thugonomics. The synergy is obviously there between these guys, and honestly, it's going to be tough for Method Orange to come out on top. Zico, what do you think when we look at these two squads? We know the compositions that they do have. What do you expect to see in the blind?
Ooh, that's a tough one to call, honestly. There's so many different options here on both of these rosters. We saw the boys, they like to play a lot of Windwalker, Death Knight in the previous cup. We also know that Method Orange are pretty much the kings of Windwalker, Death Knight. We could potentially see that, but we are not going to be left guessing. We are going to see that Death Knight Demon Hunter versus the Windwalker Demon Hunter.
Shaman versus Shaman, Cleave versus Cleave. Let's see who takes it.
Chun-Li, this is the reason why he left his team, is because he loves playing with Thugonomics. So starting off this composition, this is something they've played in past years and not surprising to see. I think before dampening, the Death Knight is definitely favored, but deeper into dampening, that extra punch with touch of death could be enough to burst down a target. This is the first time we've seen these compositions go head-to-head. Gorecki's Shaman as well, going against Sidhu's Shaman, a bit unexpected. We would normally see Gorecki on Druid in this meta, but he feels the Shaman is a better pick.
I feel like I'm watching a Legion tournament right now, giving me flashback of these compositions. This is actually a comp Chun-Li and Thugonomics have been playing together for quite some time. Now, of course, with Gorecki, it's going to be a little bit different, but they have good synergy, and what both Demon Hunters are trying to do is consistently land stuns onto the opposing Shaman, land their stuns, land their mana rifts. It's going to be a game of mana in this matchup. I'm actually surprised not to see the Restoration Druid, but it's likely that these teams have practiced in war games, have decided that the Shaman, really good with the Pack Spirit and Ghost Wolf, is able to actually he's going to be able to get away better than a Restoration Druid. If a Restoration Druid was being trained down by these classes, he'd have to sit in bear form, not be able to escape, but the Shaman, with the Ghost Wolf, suppresses all of those snares and can easily kite around these pillars.
I think also he may have watched all the Restoration Shamans from the European region yesterday with Greggy and Lontar, and then even just earlier today, Absturge. Shamans don't need a mana bar to keep healing their team. They've been tapped out quite often deep in dampening and been okay. So if you do get mana rifted to 0, the Shaman can still keep going. So it may be a premeditated decision to not play Druid, as if Druid does run out of mana, it doesn't have the same luxury to heal for that much longer into dampening. So Gorecki with more of a predictive play here, expecting a strategy to come out from Method Orange with that Demon Hunter and Death Knight and trying to counteract it with the Shaman pick over the Druid. Of course, Sidhu, I think, is going to have a little bit more reps on Shaman, and when we get deeper into dampening, I'm curious to see if all those extra reps is going to pay off.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see. So basically with Pack Spirit, anytime the Shaman is in Ghost Wolf, he's going to be regenerating his health, and that's why you see Sidhu and Gorecki just running around in Ghost Wolf. Training down Gorecki and Sidhu with these talent choices is not going to be the best strategy. So what they're doing, looking for the mana risk, but they have to keep pressure on the DPS, because that's going to be the only thing that taxes these Restoration Shamans' mana. If you just sit on Gorecki, he's just going to sit in Ghost Wolf. If you just sit on Sidhu, he's going to sit in Ghost Wolf and just heal himself passively with that talent choice, with that Azerite trait choice. So I think it was very intelligent from both these teams.
All right, Thugonomics getting targeted down here by Method Orange, but able to escape to safety. Huge advantage on that Demon Hunter over the Death Knight to be able to evade attacks by simply moving his character in the opposite direction and fell rushing to safety. Hex and crowd control secured onto Sidhu, actually banking the boys his Gladiator's Medallion to break out of crowd control. Maybe an opening to force Trill's Darkness, and then as we step into dampening, maybe get a kill. The boys are securing advantages and the lead moving into the rest of this match.
Yeah, one of the advantages that the Windwalker monk has is he has Mortal Wounds. So his Rising Sun Kick puts up a debuff, Mortal Wounds, and that reduces all incoming healing. That's going to be very effective, especially as the game goes on later. The consistent damage and spread pressure from a Death Knight should, in theory, be higher. So that's the advantage that Mez has on that Death Knight, and it will be interesting to see how those variations, or the differences in these classes, really add up as the game does go on later.
Yeah, and with the introduction of Expel Harm, the Leech healing on the Demon Demon Hunters and the Death Strike of the Death Knight. The Restoration Shamans can run around in Ghost Wolf, easily maintaining their teams with Riptide, which is why this is likely to require some immense levels of dampening for either team to really get a big dent into each other's defenses. We are getting close to that mark. 5 minutes into the match, healing starts to begin to be reduced by 1% and incrementally increasing over time, and maybe around, I'm expecting 35-40%. We could even see maybe a dampening record in this game, looking at the mana situation with the Restoration Shamans. If you guys want to start taking your bets here, I'm starting to think it's probably in the range of 60%. Maybe I'm overreaching since the mana changes, but with these top tier Restoration Shamans, obviously the awareness of Trill and Thugonomics maxed out, it's going to be difficult on top of all that healing to really find a kill too early on.
Basically, the moment in the game, which is going to be the most important, is when dampening starts to really affect that pack spirit. That's going to limit Gorecki and Sea-Doo from just sitting in Ghost Wolf. They have to actually get out, cast heals on themselves, and no longer will they be able to just passively heal through that damage. And that's where things are going to start to get real interesting. Chun-Li now getting really aggressive on Trill. He commits the touch of death and the leg sweep. Trill getting bursted down quite low. Blade Dance will avoid a little bit of it. Chun-Li, in the meantime, also taking some damage. Mez's pet actually doing quite a bit of work there on Chun-Li. You can see that sort of fire beam between Mez and his ghoul. The one that's up, it's going to be doing damage, so it's good to kite away from it, try to avoid it at all costs.
Thugonomics dipping low here just as we hit into dampening. Gorecki gets crowd controlled up by Trill. Good follow-up by Sea-Doo. Clean crowd control execution from Method Orange and potentially nets themselves a kill. Gladiator Safeguard providing Thugonomics some relief here with that blur reducing damage. But a quick play like that deeper into dampening, and Thugonomics does not make it out alive.
Yep, no question about it. That was such a scary moment for Thugonomics in the match, trading out a lot, but still having that darkness left. He has that safety net to fall back onto if he really needs to. Trill pushing forward, looking for a Mana Rift, not able to find it. Sea-Doo actually trinkets out there, wanting to avoid that stun. Trill putting Mana Rift on Thugonomics just for damage. Hasn't been able to really find them on Gorecki in this matchup. Sea-Doo pushing forward once again, lands a Hex onto Gorecki. Now Thugonomics could be in some trouble. Mez really tearing in, Trill as well. Thugonomics is going to have to kite away, and these are the moments we're looking for where Gorecki has to heal up his team. I just feel like Shaman with this pack spirit way too durable, and although at the beginning it seemed like both teams just wanted to train the enemy Shamans, they realized quite quickly what that would mean.
If Sea-Doo can keep getting these hexes on Gorecki, he's definitely going to win the game for his team. The boys know that's a threat, so they're targeting down Sea-Doo to take him out and deny that aggressive pressure that he was providing to the team. But with good positioning, they are unable to keep up the chase, instead opting to continue brawling it out in the midfield. Gorecki crossing. Sea-Doo and Gorecki meet each other in midfield, and I do not think they're looking for hugs. Hex casted by Sea-Doo gets denied. Now Gorecki looks to reverse with a Hex of his own. Good denial and reversal on that crowd control. Trill in a bit of danger here as he dips low. The Shamans are going to be key to victory in this match.
Yep, Trill getting low, as well as Mez Ascendance pops up by Sea-Doo, trying to top off his team. It's a good moment, but that's a big cooldown that the boys were able to squeeze out from Method Orange. Thugonomics still seems to be the target of choice for Method Orange as he kites away, looking to avoid a little damage. Earthen Shield Totem will deflect some of that from Gorecki. That swirling sands on the ground that will prevent a lot of the incoming damage. So look for the Shamans to place that on the ground during opportunities to burst for the other team, just to keep their team nice and healthy.
All right, Mana Rift assault by Thugonomics towards Sea-Doo. Neither Demon Hunter really able to secure any significant mana advantage, even with Mana Rift. I would say that Restoration Shaman is the best pick with Thugonomics dip low. Crowd control looks good, initiated here by Method Orange. Chun-Li in desperation to protect Thugonomics as he's holding on by a thread. Dampening really starting to ramp up, and you can definitely tell that the teams are starting to feel the pain.
Yep, 20% dampening. Things are getting interesting. Trill, 50% health, as it looks like Chun-Li and Thugonomics have realized potentially the Demon Hunter is the best target. They make a swap over onto Sea-Doo. Sea-Doo just trading out his trinket immediately, avoiding Mana Rift at all costs. Gorecki's mana, although it seems like the boys have been more pressured in this matchup, Gorecki's just 100% mana. He can't spend his mana fast enough in this matchup as Thugonomics dips lower, Trill as well. Darkness still available for Thugonomics. He has his trinket, so he's still feeling relatively safe in this matchup as all four of these cleavers look to spread some pressure in the mid-map.
Mez activating that abomination, the giant creature making its way over to Thugonomics to deal out a ton of damage, but now Thugonomics reverses with the Chaos Nova. Trill in trouble, dips low. Spirit Link Totem forced first by Sea-Doo. The boys are now ahead on cooldowns, but I do feel that crowd control execution has been in favor of Method Orange, and that could be more than enough to close the game, even if they are behind on defensive cooldowns. Gorecki is finally starting to get a little more aggressive against Sea-Doo, going toe-to-toe and chasing them down, looking for hexes. It's up to the teams to stall them out and deny it for the Shamans. Mez in a bit of trouble here, and he is going to be a liability in dampening. Spirit Link Totem forced preemptively by Gorecki, expecting that incoming hex, unable to deny it, trades the defense before it lands, but the chain is not going anywhere. Continuing now with Mez's Asphyxiate. Thugonomics is low on health. They switch over to Sea-Doo. Trill tries to protect him, but Chun-Li denies the protection. Sea-Doo does not have that to rely on. He was really hoping to rely on that darkness, but it gets completely shut down. Now he's hoping that the Earthen Wall Totem will be enough. Will it? We're at 28% dampening. It's not. He has to start retreating away. He cannot tank the amount of damage that the boys have available. Caught into another stun, getting bursted down, but barely hanging on somehow, some way, but no, ultimately going down. Thugonomics now caught into a stun, but preempting this attack, had darkness placed, immuning the incoming cross kill. The boys are back, taking game one against Method Orange.
The boys haven't even gone anywhere, right? Method Orange is the team that comes back and they run into a brick wall. The boys going to be able to take down this blind. It definitely is fun to watch when we see these two squads, though. I mean, you got Chun-Li and Thugonomics. This is an iconic duo. You look and you got Mez and Trill. This is another iconic duo. It's a lot of fun to see these teams go head-to-head, but as we watch this, Zika, we really do need to start predicting what we think is going to happen in this series.
Well, I think it's kind of hard to say because it's still very early on, but it looked like the boys were in the driver's seats pretty much the entirety of the game. That added extra pressure from that Windwalker with the healing reduction, as well as that extra chunks of bursts. You can see right here from that touch of death earlier on. It just seems to be too strong in deep dampening for these Resto Shaman Cleaves to actually survive. One nice swap there to Sea-Doo, and what really put Sea-Doo in this situation where he was just left defenseless essentially was that big Ring of Peace by Chun-Li earlier on in that darkness. Really key moment there. That was when Sea-Doo and Method Orange really wanted to recover, and they were denied by Chun-Li's great Ring of Peace, and then Chun-Li of course also activating that touch of karma so he can stay aggressive and have a little bit of extra damage with the more uptime he gets. Was able to chase him down and claim game on.
And when you do look at the changes that did happen between week 1 and week 2, you have to say, oh yeah, they should favor a team like Method Orange for comps like this in particular. But the boys in Method Orange, they do run relatively similar comps.
There's a long history of Chun-Li and Thugonomics going head-to-head with Method Orange, Mez and Sea-Doo in these sort of cleave matchups, and it's never really one-sided. I feel like of all the teams in this tournament, the team that is most well-equipped to beat Method Orange at their own game is the boys. Chun-Li, a very experienced Windwalker monk, knows exactly what he's doing with Thugonomics. We've seen Smexen really step up to the plate on that Death Knight as well. Maybe not quite on the level of Mez, but really had an excellent performance last week. And of course, Gorecki, no stranger to playing the Restoration Shaman or the Resto Druid if he really has to. So Method Orange, this is definitely a difficult matchup for them, and both teams really focusing on similar compositions.
What do we think about the fact, though, that Gorecki did end up playing Shaman here? I don't think that was something we expected right away, Zico.
Well, this is what I wanted to see from the move series as well. I just think that the Resto Shaman is going to be better equipped playing with these melees right now compared to a Resto Druid, because the Resto Druid, he's going to want to run out and go for those drinks, but you don't really have that same... We saw those drinks be able to come through in EU because most of those Resto Druid teams were paired up with a Frost Mage, slowing everybody down, crowd controlling, using that burst to kind of set that up. But I feel like with Cleave, you don't really have that same luxury. There's always going to be someone able to stop you, and the Resto Shaman in this patch got heavily buffed because of the mana regen nerfs to the other healers. Resto Shamans were one of the healers that were affected the least by that, so we can see that the Resto Shamans, they are able to go very deep into dampening without drinking, and they also have that, of course, extra utility with the grounding totems and the extra wind shears and all that stuff. So I feel like the Resto Shaman is an intelligent pick here, because once you go to drink, you lose all your momentum, and that's really what these cleave mirrors are all about.
Very interesting. We might see it again as well. The boys going to be locking in their composition first. Method Orange will then get to respond. What do you want to see from the boys? I mean, at this point, they don't really need to change anything, right, Sid?
I don't think they make a change. I think it's Method Orange that maybe mirror them. Mez on Demon Hunter, Trill on Windwalker. I feel like The boys had the composition advantage in that, and Method Orange were kind of relying on a stall-based tactic to get a kill, but you can't stall Gorecki's Resto Shaman, so instead now they might have to mirror them, which could be dangerous because I don't think that Mez and Trill have as much practice on the Windwalker Demon Hunter. Certainly not as much as Chun-Li and Thugonomics.
Well, isn't Trill the Demon Hunter and the Windwalker in Method Orange?
Mez plays
both.
Oh, Mez plays both.
They
Demon
love
Hunter.
double Demon Hunter.
That's true. That's true.
They love to play the double Demon Hunter. I mean, I think if you say who's the Demon Hunter that you prefer, you would probably say it's Trill because he's usually the one paired with the DK. But here, we know that this is a team that loves to run double Demon Hunter when they can. Doesn't seem like it's going to be le move here, though. Gorecki going to be on the Shaman again. Do you think the mirror is what we do see Method Orange employ?
I don't think so. I think Method Orange will likely play the same composition. The mirror, I feel like, is a little risky. I don't know if Method Orange has the same kind of reps. I don't know if Mez has been playing his Demon Hunter as often as Thugonomics. I think it would be a risky strategy. Maybe Method Orange just sticks with the same thing, tries to pull it off a little bit better.
And
I want to see Sam.
Yeah, what about Boomkin Demon Hunter?
What about Windwalker Frostmage?
Windwalker Frostmage.
Did Subati say that, or did Zico
No,
just say that?
I said Boomkin Demon Hunter. Okay, all right then. I'm trying to be creative here, okay? I'm trying to think outside the box, okay? I'm not limiting myself.
Method Orange definitely do not want to limit themselves here. Ben, what are you thinking?
I don't know. For Method Orange, I feel like maybe they haven't gone up against this composition just yet. See exactly how it's played out. I feel like one thing's for sure, Method Orange, if they do lock in the same comp, they should switch over to Horde. I think the Dwarf Shaman is vulnerability. He's going to be caught into those stuns. If he ever trinkets out to save Trill or Mez, those leg sweeps end up being really long when you don't have that Orc Rachel to sort of back you up.
Yeah, it really was earlier in the day when we were looking at these Druid-based compositions that we said you really have to go Alliance. Now, some factors change. Maybe we do want to see the return.
Yeah, Shaman and Druid meta completely different. For the Druids, It's all about drinking. It's all about Night Elf. For the Shaman, Orc is just such a great safety net for them, and that's why you normally see Horde teams. That's why you see primarily, I think, a lot of the North American players playing Horde is because we have been so Shaman-focused in the past. Yeah,
definitely important to note. Method Orange running out of time here. They need to make a pick. This was years ago, though, when Sidu would talk to me about how they actually made picks for a tournament. They are going to make
Windwalker
this.
DK?
Yeah, okay.
Frost.
Very interesting.
That's the first Frost DK we see in general.
Usually the first time that we see it, it is Mez in a tournament as well. What do you think of this?
Frost Death Knight is really interesting, and it's something we don't see too much, but they have two abilities that synergize with each other quite well. One is Delirium, a stacking disease that reduces your cooldown, the way your cooldowns spawn by up to 50%. And then you also have Heartstop Aura, which is another 30%. So those in conjunction, if they're just sitting on Thugonomics in this matchup, his ability to run away as a Demon Hunter is going to be greatly lowered, and I think he could be a sitting duck in this matchup. Yeah,
your cooldown on Fell Rush is like an eternity, right? So it basically just stands on him.
Yeah, I do know that a Frost Death Knight will take a Mage's Blink from 20-second cooldown, or the Shimmer to 20-second cooldown to 56 seconds.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea of how insanely powerful it is.
And then you pair some of the other things with that too. The second that Thug is able to get that Fell Rush, pulls him back. Then moves over. Like, he has everything to match that now. So that could just take the mobility away from Thugonomics. He could become the primary kill target. It's a very, very niche pick that I think could be good here. Zico, do you like it?
I like it because I haven't really seen how the Heartstop Aura and the Delirium actually play out in practice here. So I'm just excited to see that. But my main concern about Frost Death Knights is that
they get chopped.
Yeah, they get chopped pretty hard. And I think Chun-Li is definitely going to be looking to do just that.
I think this is one of those areas where Method Orange goes for a strategy where they say, okay, what's our weakness? We could get chopped. Well, we're going to out-chop you. Yeah. And that is typically where they do thrive as well. We talk about flavors for different teams across the day. Method Orange is that team that typically likes to go very quick. The meta's changed. An interesting take on how to go fast here with Mez on the Frost Death Knight. Lord Mez. If you want to see anyone do it, this is the guy to do it. And Trill, I don't think we have any doubts on how he's going to be able to play on the Monk.
Yeah, I mean, Trill competed in the MDI, won the World Championship.
Second place in the last race.
Second place in the one before that.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is World of Warcraft, essentially.
Mr. WoW.
That's what we call him, Mr. World of Warcraft right there in the flesh. So when we do look at Sea-Doo, though, how does he play in this composition? We talk about going fast, and usually when you're watching Chuck, he is just typically purging, right? That's not something that seems like he can do in this meta.
Potentially. I mean, Method Orange, they might be just looking to play really aggressive on Thugonomics. I think a Demon Hunter without their mobility is going to be an easy target for them to potentially take down. Sea-Doo, if he plays aggressive, looks for Wind Shears on Gorecki, looks for Hexes on Gorecki. Potentially that's something they could do. We've seen Method Orange like to get very aggressive in the past, and maybe the boys don't really have too much experience playing against the Frost Death Knight, because let me tell you, when all of your mobility spells basically have triple the cooldown, it really affects the way you play and definitely changes your mindset and what you're used to, and it can throw you a curveball.
Yeah, it makes you pretty angry, typically. Let's just start there. I mean,
I've dealt with that.
Yeah, I've seen it a little bit. But when we do look at this head-to-head, I think you're looking at Thugonomics and Mez, right? These are going to be the two targets that are going to just try to be deleted by both teams.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Both the Windwalker monks are going to be very durable. With the Expel Harm or the Reverse Harm, it's a strong ability to keep yourself alive. I believe it's a 10-second cooldown. You regenerate 8% of your health and redirect that damage to a nearby target as well. If they need to, they can port away. They have Touch of Karma, Fortifying Brew if they opt to use it, as well as Turbo Fist, which is one of the new talents in the patch, which makes it so when you use your Fist of Fury, it does full damage to everyone, but also gives you 100% parry. So you're going to be not getting hit by anyone unless you're caught into a stun, and it's a really strong ability that the Windwalker monks have to avoid this melee cleave damage.
This is one of those interesting moments in a tournament where if this works really well for Method Orange, if this looks really good, let's even say the boys drop down, then Smexen just ends up playing it, right? Like, this could be something that changes how the rest of the bracket looks and actually changes which teams end up getting through. I think back to, I guess it was opening week, when all of a sudden the Death Knight came out on the road to last BlizzCon, and the Death Knight comes out, and Mez was like, all right, and this looks great. And then all of a sudden you see Mez play Death Knight a whole bunch as well. I believe it was which team actually brought it out first?
Danny Slayer.
Was it Pen and Paper?
I think it was Danny Slayer.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah. And that was such a crazy team to watch, because all of a sudden they were coming up with these crazy strategies. They're playing their own meta, and everybody's just saying that Saji was the loony of his region, plays so well. And now we may be in a situation again, and once again it's the Death Knights.
Yeah, I mean, they just find their way time and time again, these Death Knights. But back in opening week, it was the Death Knight Fury Warrior, I believe. We saw that against the Move. We saw that also take out, XRB to the Moon, currently Wildcard Gaming. So they... time and time again, we just see these Death Knights kind of come out of nowhere, and they can definitely be very surprising. We haven't seen any of these Frost Death Knights. Everyone kind of just writes them off as, okay, we need to play Unholy. We're going to be very tanky. We're going to be able to extend the game. The game is always being extended to dampening right now, so we want to have something that can survive and do a lot of damage at that point. But the Frost Death Knight, it could be completely different, and it could really work here because of that cooldown reduction.
Think about what Method Orange always does as well. This is a team filled with innovators. You talk about Trill and everything that he can figure out in every aspect of the game. You think about what they play and how quickly they come up with some of these strats. They really are people that can set the tempo of an entire tournament. Let's see how the boys fare against this pick from Mez, coming in on the first Frost Death Knight that we have seen.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the upper bracket. Method Orange did not make it to the top 8 last week. They have managed to make it to the top 6 this time around, but it's not looking too good. Chun-Li and Thugonomics, that dynamic duo, Windwalker, Demon Hunter, dealt a devastating punch to Sea-Doo in game number 1, denying all of the defense that his team otherwise would provide with a perfect Ring of Peace, and that threat is still available here in game number 2. Can Method Orange pull it off with this wildcard Frost Death Knight selection?
Well, it also increases the cooldown on Blade Dance, so that's another thing. It's not just the mobility, it's all these cooldowns. As long as he can keep up the Delirium Disease and that Heartstop Aura will do work. Touch of Death now gets activated for Chun-Li, looking for some burst. Chun-Li pushes in on Trill as he ports away. Trill seems to be the main pressure point in this matchup. We expected it to be Mez, but Trill getting lower and lower. Safeguard procs, Touch of Karma gets overlapped. Sea-Doo has to Trinket and Spirit Link. What is going on for Method Orange?
I mean, this is looking not that great for Method Orange. The boys are definitely in the driver's seat here in game number 2. Finally, some counter pressure here towards Thugonomics, as we are expecting him to be the target of choice with that hard stop aura and delirium, limiting his fell rushes. So Thugonomics has used 2 fell rushes. He's not going to see another one for some time, which means Mez gets to chop him up for the next almost probably 40 seconds at this point. Chun-Li getting cleaved down as well. We see the fight being dragged closer to Sea-Doo than Gorecki, and it's very important as a Restoration Shaman to be as far away from the melee brawl as possible. Otherwise, you open yourself up to being interrupted, stunned, potentially death gripped into the fight. Gorecki's looking like he wants to try and make a move here. Cross in center field. Thugonomics pulls the trigger on that Metamorphosis. Trill immediately transcendences away from the fight, and I don't think Thugonomics can actually chase him.
Nope.
He's so limited with that hard stop aura, so now Trill will get to reset, charge back into the fight, land a double leg sweep, pulling 2 Gladiators medallions from both Chun-Li and Thugonomics. So the next time leg sweep swings around, they're not going to have a way to get out, and Touch of Death is available for Trill. So glad that Trill played it patient there. He's got a huge opening.
Yeah, Thugonomics really not able to move too much in this matchup. You can see Chun-Li is actually playing Ride the Wind to help him out. In the meantime, Trill getting bursted down, has to kite away. Hard stop aura going to really limit Thugonomics' ability to chase Trill, and Mez just sitting on him with the Chains of Ice, with the Death Grip. Thugonomics just a sitting duck, which is not something you normally see from a Demon Hunter. He just cannot connect back to Trill. Trill turning his attention over to Chun-Li. If we look at mana, Sea-Doo has a little bit of a lead. Chun-Li forced to trinket out of, I'm not sure what he trinketed out there, potentially a stun coming in from Trill. Leg sweep, just trying to avoid some damage.
I'm not sure if Thugonomics can even afford to use Fell Rush to try and run away, or if he needs it to chase down for a kill, because he has to pick one or the other. He's not going to have enough of them to do both, which means his decision-making becomes a lot more difficult here against this peculiar Frosted Death Knight of Mez. Mana fairly even on both sides. Double leg sweep secured for Chun-Li. Trill's window of opportunity has been lost now with no major points of contention in terms of cooldowns by the boys. It's unfortunate for Method Orange, and they are, I believe, starting to fall behind on the cooldown front, with both Mez and Trill taking heavy fire.
Yeah, Trill and Chun-Li sort of just chasing each other around in this match. That really is the main pressure point. Maybe they don't know how vulnerable the Frost Death Knight is. Pillar of Frost gets activated by the Frost Death Knight as he's looking to increase his damage, deal mega pain to Thugonomics and Chun-Li, but Gorecki seems to be able to heal through it quite easily. Earthen Shield Totem almost available as well. Full stun now on Thugonomics as Mez and Trill are really laying in.
Yep, Thugonomics definitely taking the heat here. Unable to move very much against this Frost Death Knight, and Trill knows that. He can just kite away, and Thugonomics is forced to attack Mez instead. Now, obviously, Mez can use Death Strike similar to Unholy Death Knight and heal himself back up just as effectively, although Runic Power is a lot more valuable in terms of Frost Death Knight damage, so he would reluctantly make that decision to Death Strike. But in Dampening, when Thugonomics switches to the Death Knight, the Death Strike heals less. Pressure now on Chun-Li here for Method Orange. They're trying to swing back in this fight. They've got a slight mana advantage over the boys as we edge closer to Dampening, which I believe is going to be an inevitability between the compositions that the boys and Method Orange have brought to the table. They're just simply so durable in the current meta. Chun-Li with Fists of Fury flying, benefiting from that Turbo Fist, as we talked about in the pregame, which means he basically can't take any damage from Mez and Trill. But now that it's over, he's in a bit of trouble, stunned up at low health. And good calls by Gorecki saying, I got you with a couple healing waves, and doesn't panic and overlap defensive cooldowns. Maledict's committed here, dispelled instantly by Gorecki. Good communication on his part, good shot calling so far, and that is what could net them the win here in game number 2.
Yeah, sitting on Chun-Li, keep in mind that's going to increase the cooldown on his Transcendence, on his Fists of Fury, I believe, so it's going to be more difficult for him to redirect some of that damage and counter pressure as best as he potentially could. Trill in a little bit of trouble right now, activates the Diffuse Magic to get rid of the Maledict. Chun-Li in a leg sweep, still has a Touch of Karma. Gorecki trinkets out, trying to keep him aggressive. Trill trades up to Touch of Karma as well onto Chun-Li to try to stay alive. Sea-Doo trying to get line of sight to connect some heals with his Ascendance. Finally does. If we look at mana, that 3% dampening, Gorecki does have a decent lead.
Yeah, at this point, now the fight is swinging in favor of the boys. Chun-Li's got Touch of Death rolling. How is Sea-Doo going to deal with this? Trill rolls away. Thugonomics can't completely get there. Actually decides to respect the damage and give Spirit Link Totem. That now puts Sea-Doo on the back foot. Caught in a leg sweep. Potential swap to him as well off the back end of this Spirit Link Totem. This could be devastating, especially if that happens later into dampening. I'm not sure if he'll even be able to recover, but with Ghost Wolf and Thugonomics' limited mobility, I think Sea-Doo should be able to easily escape here, managing to scratch it off. And now Mez is low health in the swap, and deeper in dampening, these swaps to Mez will be a critical point for Sea-Doo to try and recover one that he might not be capable of.
Yep, Chun-Li still a little bit vulnerable in this situation. He has the Trinket Karma, but if they can force that out, that would be big. Gorecki landing a huge heal on Chun-Li to keep him stable. Trill still getting low with no defensive cooldowns. He is increasingly vulnerable. A nice death grip by Mez. Triple leg sweep setup coming in from Trill. Method Orange known for those plays. It's a good way to get some pressure. Chun-Li forced to use the Touch of Karma. Sea-Doo sneaks in a Hex on Gorecki. Nicely done. Good offensive push, which nets them that Karma from Chun-Li.
Yeah, both teams keep battling it out to keep that even footing, but Gorecki is just slightly ahead in this fight. Dampening's ramping up now at 12% healing reduction, so things will begin to get quite fascinating. I want to see how the Frost Death Knight fares at 30% dampening in one of these swaps, or maybe just a committed attack. I don't think it's going to be too good, and even though he's limited the mobility of Thugonomics, he's a Frost Death Knight. His mobility is already limited, so Thugonomics doesn't really care if he's the target, unlike with Trill. Chun-Li trying to carry the team here on his back, getting pressure onto 2 points, but now Pillar of Frost is pulled for Mez. He wants to boost his damage a lot, and Chun-Li is desperately trying to retreat from that attack, but his movement is inhibited as well. He is unable to escape. We see Gorecki get gripped into a double stun. Thankfully, Thugonomics actually avoided it. Now trading Darkness, respecting this Touch of Death push by Trill and looking to reverse the pressure, but even with Darkness, Chun-Li is not out of the woods yet.
Yep, Chun-Li getting low, could be in danger. Trill as well as he ports away back to Sea-Doo, trying to get safe. Diffuse magic on that Maledict. Now Chun-Li, Maledict on him, he ports away. Gorecki caught into the Incapacitate as Mez charges in. Asphyxiate on Gorecki. Both of these Windwalker monks are vulnerable. Trill is the one with Touch of Karma, so he's feeling confident, pushing in just a little bit, but he's going to run away, try to avoid a little bit of burst, throwing in a Chi burst to get some Chi. So when he finally lands and gets to Chun-Li, he can get some damage rolling. Fist of Fury by Chun-Li, parrying all of these attacks and forcing Trill to run away.
All right, mana still in favor of Gorecki. Spirit Link Totem coming up in 24 seconds, so Sea-Doo will likely have that as a last lifeline to keep his team in the fight. They've definitely gotten more momentum in this game. That Darkness no longer available for Thugonomics, but still Trill in the back foot, trades Touch of Karma, is able to avoid the fight. This is the situation where I'd like to see a switch over to Mez when Trill is able to kite. Now double stun secured, but double stun secured in reverse as Trill is in trouble. Dangerously low, 2 more seconds actually for Sea-Doo. Spirit Link Totem now available. If he gets interrupted though, he can't access it, managing to fake cast through, get a healing wave, but I don't think he's got enough healing here in dampening. Spirit Link Totem actually traded for Gorecki. Things are getting tight for both teams here. They just simply can't heal through this amount of dampening with such limited resources in terms of mana, and suddenly Method Orange stay in the fight and continue swinging back.
Yeah, Chun-Li in a lot of trouble. Ascendance gets used by Gorecki. Still has some mana, so connecting these healing surges. Chun-Li kiting away as well with the Ride the Wind, but Mez just assaulting him, charging after him, making sure that he is continuing the damage for his team. Trill pushing in, all 4 cleavers once again reconvening. Hex onto Sea-Doo, nicely done by Gorecki. Sea-Doo's mana is a little bit behind Gorecki right now, but most of the pressure is onto Trill, who has to run away. Activates the Fortifying Brew, gets out of line of sight, places his port. Fists of Fury by Chun-Li and Trill, both of them just parrying each other's damage, not really getting too much work done. Asphyxiate on Gorecki, leg sweep on Chun-Li. Trill caught into the Chaos Nova. Both teams could fall at any moment. Trill getting lower. Spirit Link Totem gets dropped out by Sea-Doo. Gorecki does not have the same luxury. Chun-Li might have to run away, but he's just using the Earthen Shield Totem to tank this damage. I don't know if he's going to be able to tank it, though. Fist of Fury from Trill. Chun-Li's going to fall, and Method Orange stay in this series.
All right, so this is one of the first times that we've gotten to see this comp play out. This is one of the first peaks that we've gotten at Frost and how disruptive it's truly going to be. But one thing that I do want to note, kill target different than we anticipated. We saw both of the monks being the primary focus of these teams. Zika, what was the reason for that?
I assume that it's because of the Monk just being the higher threat target. The Monk is the one who puts out the pressure. If you focus the Monk, you're going to take less pressure. I'm not really sure. Maybe there's something about Frost Death Knights that just makes them an unattractive target to hit for other melees, but Frost Death Knights are definitely squishy. I don't know. It definitely went a lot better for Method Orange, though, when they decided to go after Chun-Li in the start. We thought Thugonomics also was going to be the target on the flip side, and it just became a Windwalker versus Windwalker slugfest, which I am perfectly happy with, because Trill and Chun-Li, they are the kings here of Windwalkers, so seeing them go head-to-head like this was pretty awesome to watch. And what it comes down to here in the end as well is that touch of karma from Trill coming back up in the nick of time. And there's some different talent selection on these two Windwalkers as well. Trill was playing with the Fortified Brew, so I am wondering if Chun-Li maybe was playing the...
Ride the Wind.
He was playing Ride the Wind, okay.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, and that's something that we always see him try to play if he can. He loves to get the mobility from it, but the question is what we see in the next game. Already some surprises in game number 2. When we return, we will be tied up, and we'll have to see who's going to be able to take game 3.
I'm not really seeing much for them. I mean, I could throw out a bunch of comps that I think would work, but I'm not sure if they're the ones that Method Orange have available. So maybe something like even Enhancement Shaman, Arms Warrior to try and take out Chun-Li on the Windwalker Monk, and a Storm Bolt that has been usually effective to kill Windwalkers. So I'm basically coming up with whatever can swat a Windwalker. And Mez has practiced Warrior in the past. I believe Samiam was practicing Enhancement Shaman, or at least a couple of months ago. But now at this point, did they keep them up to speed is really the question. Them blind locking in this composition with how grim game number 1 went, I'm pretty surprised.
Yeah, the other thing that is interesting, now that we got to see the Frost Death Knight, you were talking about it quite a bit. You were telling me about it days ago. I think
I was crying about it days ago.
You were just really mad you couldn't blink. But the thing is now that we've seen it, we have to also say, did this change the course of the tournament at all? Do we think the boys may use it later on in the tournament? They have Smexen, a very, very, very good Death Knight as well. All tied up. We have a series on our hands. Method Orange had a disappointing tournament last week. They don't even make it to the broadcast. This time around, they've guaranteed themselves at least top 6, but the boys, they want to try to have a repeat. Already 100 points in their back pocket. What can they do on Tiger's Peak?
Definitely have to see what can get done here. The boys have a compositional advantage, we think, after what we saw in the Grand Arena. Maybe there's tweaks that Method Orange could make. I think if they locked in Horde, which they did, that will give them a little bit more of an edge in this matchup. Seeded playing Dwarf in game number 1. Not necessarily the best, especially against a cleave setup like a Windwalker, Demon Hunter, where you're going to be sitting those stuns, and that's going to be where you take most of the damage.
All right, Chun-Li getting stunned on his first Fist of Fury. A bit unfortunate for him. A lot of his damage negated by Trill. Gorecki lockdown in crowd control. Chun-Li the target here for Method Orange as Mez leads the charge, activating that abomination. And Chun-Li, he's on the run trying to escape to safety, but really there is no safe place for him as Trill continues the pursuit. Now activating that Maledicts, absorbing even more healing from Gorecki, potentially pulling a touch of karma very early on. Double Chaos Nova secured by Trill. Mez gripping Gorecki in. Not able to find any crowd control off the back of it. Now Chun-Li looks to reverse, targeting down Trill with a wind shear into a Hex here by Gorecki. Not able to get the Hex. A bit unfortunate for Gorecki. Would have liked to get a good crowd control chain there. Now it's going to set him back.
Yep, good pressure on Chun-Li, opting into the Fortifying Brew this game, so he's going to be a little bit tankier than when he was playing the Ride the Wind, but does, of course, lose that utility. But I think it's a fair trade, especially if he is the main target. Having that ability you can rotate through with your Diffuse Magic, with your Touch of Karma, is definitely going to be strong for Chun-Li in the long game.
The result of Game 1 was that Sidhu was the target of Chun-Li and Thugonomics, and the mobility of a Windwalker and a Demon Hunter was more than enough to overwhelm him, even with the advantages that Ghost Wolf bring. Now with the Frost Death Knight limiting that mobility, Sidhu really wasn't a target in game number 2 and he never got pressured. But here in game 3, without that Frost Death Knight to protect him, he is likely to be a kill target later into the match, as dampening is expected between these two teams. Chun-Li getting imprisoned at low health, an interesting choice here by Trill as they try to set up burst off the back of it, but with no crowd control on Gorecki, he easily responds.
Yeah, Trill actually just using the Mana Rift for the additional damage on Chun-Li in those stun lock combos. Darkness gets dropped, Ring of Peace gets used, Sea-Doo has to run away. That's the Astral Shift. That was a touch of death from Chun-Li. Chun-Li really has to think twice about chasing him, though. Unfortunately, not going to be able to. Mez and Trill just destroying Chun-Li as he is caught into the Chaos Nova and the Fell Eruption. Earthen Shield Totem gets dropped out by Gorecki, helping Chun-Li tank some of this damage. Fist of Fury gets tossed out as well, but Chun-Li chasing down Sea-Doo really isn't an option. Sea-Doo, he has the Ghost Wolf he can just kite around in. Chains of Ice coming in from Mez, the Death Grip. Eventually, even though Chun-Li has so much mobility, he's not going to be able to reconnect.
Chun-Li portaling back to recover here while his team is sitting through extended crowd control. Paralysis on Sea-Doo, but no setup, no damage, and really getting denied during that moment that would normally be scary for his team. Fist of Fury defending himself here with that Turbo Fist, as well as dealing some damage back to the team. Sea-Doo at least with a significant mana lead in this specific match. A lot better at least than game number 1. Everything will be on Sea-Doo here to secure a victory. He needs to play more efficiently than Gorecki. They're doing a good job at shutting down the hexes and then potentially reversing them as Sea-Doo crosses to midfield. Gets denied with Ring of Peace, but the Maledicts double connect. Chun-Li gets bursted down in a stun. Trinket Touch of Karma is forced to be traded out, and the pressure from Method Orange overall is much more significant here in game 3. If they can win this swing match, they'll have the compositional advantage for game 5. It's very important that they can find a victory here off this momentum.
Yeah, Gorecki actually traded out a Spirit Link Totem as well, so now Chun-Li very vulnerable, only really has to diffuse magic. Chaos Nova is used, and with the way Trill and Mez are playing this, Chun-Li, he's been having to run away so much, and with the way the Windwalker Monk works, the less time you have on a target means the less blackout kicks you get, which is going to reset that Fist of Fury and that Rising Sun Kick. Every time you use it, it gets lower, but when you're having to run away the entire game, you lose the opportunity for that cooldown reduction, and it really limits the amount of damage you're able to do.
Chun-Li is having a hard time getting things going. Gorecki still locked out of the fight for a couple more seconds. Extending that chain is Mez. Chun-Li may need to make a trade. Gorecki decides to for him, but that Gladiator Safeguard Shield procced regardless, so a bit of an overlap in terms of defense, opening the cracks on the wall. That is the boys here as Method Orange try to keep their advantage, but mana isn't looking so amazingly well for Sea-Doo anymore. It's a lot more equal. Touch of Death activated. Chun-Li trying to counter-aggress. Trill with the evasive maneuvers, avoiding him as much as possible, denying a huge burst moment by Chun-Li. Good evasive maneuvers from Trill.
Yeah, very nicely done. Chun-Li finally gets topped off. Gorecki's mana actually a little bit ahead. He pulled ahead of Sea-Doo in this game. Mana Rift gets dropped out on a Gorecki once again. And Chun-Li, good mana burn there by Trill, which evens up the mana in favor of Sea-Doo just a little bit. Mez now seems to be the main focus point for the boys as they look to pressure him down. Dips below 50% HP. Sea-Doo into the paralysis. Sea-Doo, or actually Mez could be in a lot of trouble. He really doesn't have many defensives. He doesn't have Icebound Fortitude available for him. I guess he's not using that as a talent. And Mez now could be in a lot of trouble.
All right, into dampening. The Death Knight does become a lot squishier, which means he just takes more damage because his Death Strike is not going to heal him as much. Although the crowd control is relentless from Method Orange in this specific match. With Trill running that extended imprisonment, Gorecki can be locked out of the fight for 5 seconds at a time when Trill decides to pull the trigger on that. Mez then continues that 5 seconds by an additional 2 to 3 with Asphyxiate, and with that chain of crowd control, they can take Chun-Li down, and Method Orange can find victory, keeping themselves alive in the upper bracket in the swing match. Thugonomics is going to trade Darkness to keep the fight going, but the mana is basically tapped at this point. The cooldowns have all but run dry. Chun-Li on the run to stay alive.
Yeah, Method Orange have found the answer in this matchup, it would seem. Chun-Li doesn't really have too much left to work with. Gorecki does have his Trinket Spirit Links rotating back up. Stun now on to Sea-Doo. We saw the boys close out the game with an all-in on Sea-Doo, but it just doesn't seem like that's what they're looking for in this game. Chun-Li's just too pressured to make that happen, but that might be exactly what they need. Although Mez and Trill are rotting down low, Sea-Doo's mana isn't doing too great either. Chun-Li basically has nothing left. Double Chaos Nova does land. Gorecki trinkets out into a Fell Eruption by Trill, into a full imprisonment. Chun-Li very vulnerable, needs to get a Fist of Fury up or something to avoid some damage. Managed to find it to get that parry up. Mez now getting low. Sea-Doo has to trinket out. Ascendance will be used, and that Ascendance is a massive healing for Sea-Doo, for Method Orange, to keep Mez alive.
Yeah, but even still at 12% dampening and increasing, Mez could be a point of weakness for the boys. I do believe that Mez has opted out of Icebound Fortitude for Lichborn, which is why Icebound Fortitude is not appearing on the UI. Effectively, Lichborn is just a 1-minute version of Icebound Fortitude without the additional effect of becoming immune to stuns. So Mez gets more rotational defense, but can't get out of stuns, like the stun that he's currently in and taking a lot of damage from. Sea-Doo tries to trade Earthen Wall Totem to stay alive. Drops Spirit Link Totem as well. Suddenly Sea-Doo on the ropes here. Cooldown wise, Mez could be in trouble. The boys rotate back in terms of defense, but no mana on either side as we battle this out to the bitter end.
Chun-Li trying to kite away. Trill on one side, Mez on the other. Fist of Fury not getting full value. Double Chaos Nova, stun on Gorecki. Chun-Li gets lower. Diffuse Magic on the Maledict as he's looking to make an escape. Looking to make a potential setup here on Sea-Doo. Incapacitate into a leg sweep. He gets gripped away. Mez with the Chains of Ice. Chaos Nova comes in. Can they take Sea-Doo down? Chun-Li, he has the touch of karma. He can play aggressive here. Sea-Doo getting lower and lower. That's the Astral Shift. Can the boys turn around this game with an all-in on Sea-Doo once again? Sea-Doo trying to kite away. Touch of karma doing so much damage. The safeguard procs, but Sea-Doo has completely nothing left. No trinket. The only thing keeping him alive is the peels from Mez and Trill. Chun-Li now in some trouble. Spirit Link Totem gets dropped out by Gorecki, and Sea-Doo manages to stabilize.
Trill still has darkness in his back pocket, and Chun-Li on the ropes with not much left to keep going. Both teams totally tapped on mana. This is the swing match. Method Orange have to win this if they want the advantage moving into Game 5. They've been setting themselves up so excellently throughout this entire fight, and they're looking to close this out. Gorecki doesn't have anything really to keep this going. Double Chaos Nova. Chun-Li breaks out, retreats with that Ring of Peace, but Mez charges through it with the Death's Advance. Good timing on Mez's part to stay on target. Gorecki locked out of the match with that imprisonment. Thugonomics doing what he can, stunning up the team, but these stuns are so diminished. Chun-Li portals back to kite and stay in the fight, but Trill is in hot pursuit. Gorecki's got nothing, but Chun-Li still on the run, going and taking a road trip at this point.
Yeah, nicely done by Chun-Li. This kiting has been beautiful, buying Gorecki a little bit of time, but Gorecki with no mana left in the tank. He can't keep Chun-Li alive. Now a full stun, Fell Eruption, Chun-Li getting lower.
Lightning Bolt.
He needs 10 seconds on the Touch of Karma. Diffuse Magic might be enough to buy him that 7 seconds left before he can use that ability to try to make an all-in attempt on Sea-Doo once again, because I'm not seeing many openings here for the boys. They're just consistently having to run away. They've got no mana. Sea-Doo's doing such a good job regenerating his mana right now as the boys have no pressure, but Touch of Death gets used. Chun-Li trying to reverse the pressure onto Trill, but Blur's coming up soon. He has the darkness. Trill should be completely fine. I think Chun-Li is the one that might fall.
Double stun, Touch of Karma on basically no health and no mana for the boys. It's still the swing match. They're going to lose their Game 5 advantage if they fall here, and Method Orange are looking good. Darkness still available for Trill. Chun-Li trades Fortifying Brew, but at 31% damage, there's no way that's going to be enough. Turbo Fist at least protects him. No, Trill ducks through it with Fell Rush, takes the kill from behind, and Method Orange take the swing match. I was counting them out, but they definitely stepped up their game here in Game 3, and now they move on at match point.
You said it, man. Holy moly, that was the swing match, and they put so much pressure onto Chun-Li. They turn him into Run-Li. They're able to catch up, take him down. How were they able to do it? Because like we said, it looks like Method Orange are severely disadvantaged because they lose the blind pick with their route to actually win the Series Z.
Well, I think what it came down to is in the first game, they were going after Thugonomics. Turns out Chun-Li is just a better target. Thugonomics has a lot better defense in general as that Demon Hunter with the Blade Dance, avoiding a lot of those attacks with the shorter cooldown on the things like Blur as well. It just makes him a very, very tricky target to kill, and he also has a lot more self-healing compared to a Windwalker Monk, and this is also why the mana was so much more evenly matched in this game, because Gorecki actually had to heal Chun-Li in this match. Chun-Li even opted out to take the Fortifying Brew, which is additional defense, and he still went down. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit in the previous game. How much was because of the Frost Death Knight, and how much of that win was because of the fact that they just went after the Windwalker Monk.
True. You can just be hanging out in Ghost Wolf. We'll feel very safe doing that. Gorecki, has he become a target in your mind on Blade's Edge?
I find it hard to see Gorecki going down, but they could, I mean, this is Method Orange. They have done strategies like this in the past where they just run down the healer and spam purge and just try to go for a quick win. Personally, though, I don't like the Druid pick on Blade's Edge because the Druid pick's strength is you can sneak off and drink, and Gorecki plays a Horde Druid, and Gorecki, I want to see him on an Alliance Druid first of all, and Gorecki is going to be playing on a small map where you just can't really get those drinks off. And if you don't get drinks off and the Shaman doesn't get drinks off, the Shaman is going to out-mana you pretty hard. So I don't even think Method Orange necessarily has to go on Gorecki. I think they can just go on Chun-Li and just kill him.
It's a different scenario, but earlier today, keep in mind what we did see, and it was also an Alliance Druid on Hook Point, another small map, not able to get those drinks. You just don't have enough time to do it, so we're going to have to see what Gorecki is able to do in these tight quarters on a healer that we expect to need drinks, but Method Orange is back. The boys were able to get 100 points in last week's tournament. Method Orange was able to grab 0. Now with this top 6, they do not want to let up. They want to find themselves in the driver's seat in the upper portion of the bracket for the rest of the tournament, but you need to make sure you get the queues together first. So we're going to have a few moments here before we do jump into the action on Blade's Edge Arena, which gives us more time to talk. Method Orange, if they do get this, how many points do they guarantee themselves? Because I'm already starting to think about standings. They actually have 0 right now. So now that they've gotten at least top 6, they're into the money, certainly.
It's 40 points for top 6 and 60 points for top 4.
Okay, cool. So now they can potentially get themselves in the place where they're grabbing 60. That's half of what we would get if we do see a first place finish. Yeah, the top 3, if you get third place, you're going to be able to get those 80 points. And then after that, 100, 120. So they're kind of already behind, but only 1 week so far.
But if you think about the qualifications, even just further down the pipeline, if you can't win at these international lands, then you have to qualify on points. So in my opinion, it's get first place as many times as you can so that you've got that as a safety net should the finals not work out for you. So I do think for a team like Method Orange is that they're aiming for first or nothing at this point.
Exactly, because I mean we could only see one North American team make it all the way to the finals for the year, right? That is something that is a very, I don't want to say likely reality, but there's a large potential for it.
Well, there's also the fact that the boys is already holding 100 points, so you're going to be catching up with the boys, and we already know Super Frogs is in that lower bracket, so they have a real opportunity here to actually climb those standings and get some of those points back.
Knock somebody down and also keep on climbing. Method Orange's goal right here. The gates are now open. Let's see if they can take this one home or if the boys are going to bring it all the way to a game number 5.
I think Chun-Li is actually, is he playing a Blood Elf? No, he's not. I don't think he's playing Human, but Smexon taking quite a bit of damage very early on. We'll have to see how Gorecki's mana fares against Sea-Doo in this Cleave matchup. His damage is going to be very high for both teams. Mez and Smexon seem to be the target of choice. Gorecki able to heal through so far. Already, is he sneaking away for a drink already? Gorecki does not want to fall behind. He throws out the Iron Bark, realizes the burst damage is gone, and he goes to reset his mana as soon as possible. Actually, he's not. He's just getting in cat form. He did manage to get full health. Is he playing Feral Affinity? A lot of questions for me.
I mean, yeah, he's playing a Feral Affinity.
Smexon's just taking a lot of damage early on here, and I'm not totally sold on this Restoration Druid pick unless maybe his Feral Affinity can add a little bit of extra damage, but while he's in cat form, he's not healing, and Smexon and Chun-Li are taking the most amount of damage I've seen a team take before dampening. Finally exchanging blows back here towards Mez and Trill, trying to kick up some heat. Sea-Doo will deny it, though, with this Ascendance, boosting his area of effect, healing quite effectively, too. Top off the team, triple stun by Trill. Gorecki the target, maybe potentially moving forward, and on that Druid, he's a lot more exposed, I believe, to Mana Rift. I think Shaman is the only healer that can deal with that mana burn effect effectively, and that, I feel like this is a throwaway by Gorecki switching over to Druid.
Yeah, he's not Master Shapeshifter either, so he's not getting that additional damage. It seems like definitely a weird choice. Smexon getting swapped to up top. Gorecki, he's not going to have any time to drink in this matchup, but I think that's one of the vulnerabilities of the Restoration Druid in a Cleave setup like this. Sea-Doo should be able to hold on. A stun now onto Gorecki. He's going to be very vulnerable, and you bet that Method Orange knows exactly what's going on, that he is Feral Affinity. He's not going to have that form, the Bear form, Frenzied Regeneration if he really really needs it. So if Gorecki gets a little bit over-aggressive, I think Trill and Mez can make a swap, really tax his mana. Gorecki looking for a drink. Trill is not going to allow that. Like I said, Demon Hunters normally like to hunt demons, but they also like to hunt Resto Druids that sit down and try to regenerate their mana. Good pressure here for Smexen and Chun-Li onto Mez and Trill. CD trying to play catch-up. No Ascendants available. Might have to drop the Spirit Link Totem, and that's one of the advantages that Gorecki will have, is his healing is stronger than Sidu's at this point, although Sidu should be able to hold on to a little bit more mana. When he doesn't have the Ascendants, things can get scary quite quickly.
Yeah, most certainly. Dampening is going to be a necessity, I think, in this matchup as well, even with the Restoration Druid changeover. I feel like Gorecki isn't running Feral Affinity, or Method Orange haven't really clued into him running it, because with a Death Knight and a Demon on your team, I feel like targeting the Druid is definitely a necessity. Mez under fire here, dipping low, may need to exchange some Runic Power in order to use Death Strike and stabilize himself. It is definitely a bold move by Smexen to go into the Death Knight domain, especially when it is Lord Mez you face head-to-head, but he does it defiantly here in what is match point. Should he lose and be knocked down to the lower bracket, you definitely want to be staying up in that upper bracket, have a better chance of taking the entire cup. Mez has been under fire start to finish. Sidu still locked out of the match. Extended crowd control, trying to catch a couple heals, but struggling.
Yeah, definitely difficult. Mez getting lower. Sidu trying to find the heals in this matchup as Mez does get low. But keep in mind, the Restoration Shaman Mastery, quite powerful when people are low HP. Sidu not having as much faith as I do in that Shaman Mastery. Dropping the Spirit Link Totem as Mez gets lower. Great pressure here from Smexen and Chun-Li. Touch of Death does get used. Mez could be in a lot of trouble as Darkness gets dropped. Good trade by Trill, ultimately saving Mez's life in this situation.
The one advantage that Chun-Li's team's got is Mortal Wounds on that Windwalker, reducing healing by 25%. And Mez's team doesn't have that advantage, although even without it, starting to chomp up both Smexen and Chun-Li. Mez still, though, in trouble, is ultimately going to go down, and that was a lot quicker than I expected. Smexen on that Death Knight dishing out the damage, bringing us back to a game 5, but because Method Orange won that swing match, they can set up the location, and they can set up the comp advantage.
This is why we go all the way back to that game 3, and we said that it was so crucial, but we were talking about Smexen. We knew that this could be the X factor, potentially the thing to turn around the entire ship of this series. The boys gonna break out Smexen and Zico. It looks good.
Yeah, it looked really good. I'm almost wondering what is actually Chun-Li doing differently here, because he is doing so much more damage than in the previous game. In general, the boys, it just seems like Smexen, instead of having that Demon Hunter, having Smexen, it's just doing so much more damage. It feels like Mez was just under heavy fire the entirety of the game. I think they really exploited the fact as well that Mez isn't playing that Icebound Fortitude. They're going to be losing out on that damage reduction from that cooldown, and they just take him down.
What do you think we actually do see in the next one, though, Van? I'm
kind of wondering, for Gorecki and the Feral Affinity, we kind of criticized it a little bit, but one thing I thought might be kind of cool, and this is maybe what he's thinking, is anytime he goes for these re-stealths and these drinks, if Trill is chasing him, maybe he can get the break stun on him and keep him in crowd control, maybe something like that. Maybe just trying to give himself a little bit more CC when he does get out of combat and get into stealth, because we really didn't see him opt for damage. It was more just to control Trill when he was chasing him down.
Yeah. Amount of damage. Whoa, what? And we are going to see Sami. Oh, well, look at you. You were right, Sid.
Yeah, but this isn't when I was expecting it.
No, no one was expecting it at all except for you, so you're still right.
Okay. I'll take it as Sid was right once.
Sid was right.
Put a mark on the checkerboard.
But will it work? That's
what I was about to say now. I think I'm going to give my prediction to the boys.
No. I think I am too. I don't think playing the balance druid. No, wait. You're because he's playing it into a Resto Druid.
So why are they picking down
Sid is giving.
When Gorecki was a shaman.
Advice.
When Gorecki was a shaman, I thought this made sense. Gorecki isn't a shaman anymore. I don't think it makes sense.
Let's just see. Let's just find out right now.
They picked this into the Druid. They knew it was coming.
This composition was good enough to win them BlizzCon. Will it be good enough to give them the win in this series. Game 5, Sam I Am going to be the deciding factor here. I hope he's hydrated.
I mean, if they're taking advice from me, I don't know what they're doing. I thought it made sense against the Restoration Shaman, but Root Solar Beam can not be combined together against a Druid, as they can shapeshift out, and you lose a huge crowd control when facing one. I'm not sure how Sam I Am is going to surmount some offensive pushes because of that.
Oh, Trill dropping the darkness instantaneously on Sidhu, but it was overlapped with the bark skin. Sidhu really not having faith, or there was some sort of miscommunication there. Sidhu could still be in a little bit of trouble. Gorecki moving in, looking for a Cyclone on Sam I Am, denying his damage. And it's likely the boys, they're just going all in on Sidhu. No darkness, Ironbark is used, Thorns used as well. Can Sidhu get away? He's going to be tanking out this damage in bear form, but now with no damage reduction left, he could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Or not.
I think it's not. Sidhu gets... Oh, wait. Gorecki is playing Feral Affinity again. Jumping on Sidhu. Gorecki just loves this Feral Affinity, and I'm wondering if Trill is going to try and punish that. He immediately switches to Gorecki to try and build some pressure in multiple places. But while he's attacking Gorecki, Chun-Li and Smexen will then be left open to build up some big damage. We did see massive cooldowns exchanged earlier on for Sam I Am's Incarnation with Anti-Magic Zone and Icebound Fortitude. Anti-Magic Shield, 3 of those buttons below Smexen. Those provide good damage reduction, and all of them were used at the same time, which means during this moment he would normally be vulnerable. However, before dampening, Death Strike, I believe, should be enough, but he can't use it when he's stunned. He does get stunned out of line of sight. Smexen needs to make his way back up soon. Gladiator safeguards, soaking up some hits, but Gorecki still crowd control. Managed to connect Ironbark right before that bash hit, stabilizing Smexen. I'm not going to count this composition out just yet. They're definitely showing that they've got some pretty good pressure.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like Sidhu does have the mana lead, although Gorecki has managed to sneak off and land a drink as he moves forward. There it is once again, the pounce stun over onto Trill. No follow-up, but I like that he has that available. Gorecki didn't actually get any mana there, so although Sidhu has been pressured far more in this game, his mana is a lot better, so if he can just hold on for a little bit longer, they might end up securing the mana lead. Trill, or Chun-Li, sorry, still all over Sidhu in this matchup, Ironbark and Thorns. And keep in mind the positioning Sidhu has. He's doing a really good job with that wild charge up to this pillar, but he gets Death Grip back. That's unfortunate. Now he's kind of stuck here. Sitting duck with the leg sweep landing. Sidhu in a lot of trouble. All 3 members of the boys looking to close out this game. Method Orange, they have to stay alive. They might get knocked down to the lower bracket, and the boys have done it in this series, knocking down Method Orange 3-2.
Oh, man. Sam I Am should have probably stayed on the bench, maybe? I don't know. What was this composition, Zico?
Weird.
That's a weird... Yeah. I feel like both teams are kind of just like experimenting in this matchup. They're like, well, I'm not sure what exactly is going to work.
Doesn't seem like
I want to see the Frost Death Knight one more time, honestly. Just Frost Death Knight, go after Chun-Li again. It seemed to work really well for them on Ashamain's fall. Method Orange picks this map. That tells me, okay, it's Cleave City. No, they bring in Sam I Am on the caster. What can Sam I Am actually even provide here with the Root Beam not being a factor against Gorecki? And I mean, even here, Gorecki is actually playing the Feral Affinity as well, getting a nice triple DR stun. We can see Chun-Li, Smexen, and Chun-Li, his Ring of Pieces has just been amazing. Look at that one as well. It really doesn't make any sense because
I would have rather seen Trill on Windwalker. I feel like that would have been better.
Yeah, I feel like the Windwalkers were the X factors of the entire series. I wanted to see the Windwalkers still because that's essentially what gave them so much success in their wins.